Welcome to our Cabinet meeting on the 23rd of October. First agenda item this afternoon is the appointment of chairperson. I am Councillor Steve Hunt, leader of Neath Talbot Council, and I will be chairing today's meeting. Agenda item 2 is the chair's announcements. Can I welcome members of the public or press viewing this meeting? Can I ask you to please ensure your microphones are switched off? You are here to observe the meeting only. Members and officers, please ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting and that your microphones are switched to mute unless you are speaking. In addition, when asked to raise your hand, if members who are virtually attending this meeting could raise your electronic hands, and for members physically present, just raise your hand here in the chamber. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Can I ask, are there any declarations of interest from members? Please, would members say what the items are and what the interest is? I'll ask Nadine then to forward you an electronic version of the form for you to complete and email back. And my understanding is this afternoon, agenda item 12, all officers will be leaving the meeting, those of you online and those of you in the chamber, for us to deal with item 12 this afternoon. Oh yes, of course, except Karen Jones, who will take us through that agenda item at the appropriate time. So any declarations of interest? Or Councillor Tim Bowen, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Item 11, traffic order, Evelvark. I'm a ward member for that area. Going into private, item 24, Celtic Freeport. I'm chair of the Joint Scrutiny Committee. And item 21 and 22, Hillside, I'll be given a prejudicial interest in there as I have a family member who actually works there.
Thank you, Tim. Any other members? Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously not taking part in this meeting as a voting member, but likewise to Councillor Tim Bowen, I'm a member of the some of the joint scrutiny arrangements as well. I'm also named in the active travel item as one of the consultees that took place before the document was finalised.
Thank you very much, Sean. Councillor Jeremy Early.
Thank you, Chair. Similar as Councillor Bowen, so we share the ward with one of the traffic orders. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Councillor Ken Phillips.
Just to check, Leader, following on from what Councillor Percy said, I'm also named in the active travel document as having been involved in the consultation process. Does that cause any issues?
Bring Craig here now.
Can I just check, sorry, Councillor Phillips, when you say involved, you just responded to the consultation, or were you just involved in some discussions in your capacity as cabinet member?
Involved in discussions as a cabinet member and as a councillor. There was in the documentation it describes that there was a meeting held around the issue. So
that's fine. No, I'm happy in that sense. There's no need to worry about Kevin interest. I mean, I know Councillor Percy just mentioned it. I wouldn't have worried too much about it for that particular aspect. So no, that's fine. We don't need to record that.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks, Ken. Any further interest? I don't see any. So if I move on to agenda item 4, which is the minutes of the previous meeting of Cabinet, which were held on the 2nd of October. The minutes are on pages 5 to 18 of your agenda pack, and the minutes are here for approval of accuracy only. But I will ask if members have any comments on the accuracy of these minutes. I don't see any comments. So I'm happy to propose that they're a true record. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see you look at it is.
Thank you, Alan. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you are content with the accuracy of the minutes.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm those minutes have been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 5 is the forward work programme for 24-25. The forward work programme is on pages 19 to 32. Is also here for noting. I move on to agenda item 6, which is public question time. I can confirm we have a notification to speak at today's meeting. Mr. Dewitt joins us online. So I would like to welcome you, Mr. Dewitt, to our meeting of Cabinet. I I understand the process for today has been explained to you. So I will now hand over to you and invite you to address Cabinet with your question, please.
So I have a question that's in regards to active travel and the document that you're producing. So in some recent years, Neath Talbot Council has not submitted bids to the Active Travel Fund in several years, and more recently when it has not been successful. I would hope to see some strategy to improve this, but I'm not clear what those are. I think it's fair to say that Neath Talbot is quite unquestionably now the worst performing local authority in Wales in succeeding in getting active travel funding. And I think we have to have some specific goals to see the process of improving that. Do we think this document will help us to improve and become a better performing local authority in this area?
Thank you, Mr. Dewitt. Can I now please ask Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Transport and Connectivity, Councillor Wyndham Griffith, to respond to your question, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Dewitt, in reply to your question, since 2014, NPT have submitted applications to the Welsh Government for active travel improvement for over £13 million and have been successful in securing over £6 million. Applications for funding have been submitted every year since 2014. In 2022-23, no main scheme application was submitted to Welsh Government, only core application. However, that year, an application was submitted to UK Government under the Levelling Up Fund for over £13.5 million for the Newbridge Active Travel Link and Dock Access proposal. We received provisional award for funding for this scheme and are awaited further announcement on this. This has been achieved with no dedicated resource until recently in the team, where we've doubled the personnel in the team to 2. In regard to unsuccessful bids, the Active Travel Fund is always oversubscribed by bids from the 22 Welsh local authorities. For example, the available budget for the Active Travel Fund for 2024-2025 was £50 million. TfW received applications for £89 million. Of this, the budget for main schemes was £35 million and applications was £74 million, resulting in £39 million of schemes unfunded. The master plan approach set out in the plan will ensure that we have schemes in the pipeline ready to come forward. The master plans are in areas that are more populated and therefore more likely to score better when TfW and Welsh Government are assessing the funding applications. They will also deliver improvements in our most populated urban areas and provide opportunity for our residents to travel by foot or on bike to employment, education, health facilities and other key destinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Mr. Dewitt, would you like to ask a supplementary question, or is that response sufficient for you this afternoon?
I would like to ask a supplementary question.
Yeah, certainly. If you would like to ask your question, then carry on. Thank you.
So I understand in a number of that answers, some other funding sources were mixed up in the answer to that question. But you can just add up the amount we've received from the Active Travel Fund. We're bottom of the chart. It's just unquestionable that we are. And I would like for us to stop being at the bottom. Every other local authority last year funded a major scheme, and we didn't. And even in previous years where we've managed to get small amounts of money, everyone else has got more. I think we have to accept that we have done poorly for us to start improving.
Thank you, Mr. Dewitt. Councillor Griffiths, would you like to respond to the supplementary?
Thank you. Section 5 of the Active Travel Delivery Plan details proposed improvements to infrastructure facilities. The plan contains 29 actions and, subject to funding, will see the delivery of improvements in the following areas: Neath Town Centre Master Plan, Sandfields Master Plan, Port Talbot Aberavon Master Plan, a 3.5 kilometre route linking the residential area of Kimlet and Neath Town Centre, improvements linking Talbot to Port Talbot and Goitra, improvements to the NC N4 between Neath Canal and the E48, to Ferry Bridge, Newbridge Road Bridge, improving accessibility of facilities by the removal of barriers, installation of cycle storage, and installation of drop curbs and tactile paving. Within NPT, there are 400 future routes. These proposed improvements will be subject to funding. See improvements to circa 146 routes. This will improve 35% of the future routes on NPT's active travel network map. And will target areas identified throughout TFW's prioritisation as our highest potential for model shift. While there is no proposal to create a statement structure, these improvements will make a real difference in the way our residents and visitors are able to travel for everyday purposes or short journeys. It is also important to note that while the Welsh Government provides capital funding to implement improvements, there is no, and I repeat, no revenue funding provided for the ongoing maintenance of these routes, which has to be found within the Council's existing budget.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Mr. Stewart, as you know, those are the two questions you're allowed to ask this afternoon, and I'm sure if you want to pursue any further questions, please feel free to email to officers or Cabinet member at a later date. You're also, thank you very much for your attendance here today. You're of course welcome to stay for the remainder of the business this afternoon, but if you would like to leave, then that's fine also. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. And move on to agenda item 7 this afternoon, and that's the triage feasibility assessment. The report is on pages 33 to 40 and is here for a decision. Shelley Howard, do you have anything further to add, please?
Thank you, Leader. So I've come before you on a number of occasions to discuss the issue of homelessness in Neath Port Talbot. The number of people reaching out to the council because they're at risk of becoming homeless, and the number of people requiring temporary accommodation because they've become homeless continues to rise, not just in Neath Port Talbot, but across Wales. I've spoken to you previously about the fact that different cohorts of people who have never needed to approach the council before, for example, people in stable jobs, have found themselves in a position where they need temporary accommodation. And I've also explained that over the last few years, we have seen a significant increase in families with children that have lost their home and need help from the council because they have nowhere else to turn. And we've also explained the work we've done to make sure that they are appropriately accommodated and quickly rehoused. As we've worked with those that are experiencing homelessness to better understand their situation and what we could do differently to help them, we've identified that there is a cohort of people that have a lot of very challenging things happening in their lives, which then makes them incredibly vulnerable. And these people need support from a range of organisations and agencies to be able to help them stabilise their current situation, develop their daily living skills, enhance their resilience, and get the right treatment and support that they need to overcome the barriers and trauma that they're experiencing. And a way to do this is through the development of a triage service. Triage is a specialist service designed to holistically assess the whole needs of the person, not just their accommodation needs. And in that way, we can then start to put in place the interventions that they require to help them to overcome past barriers and trauma so that they can successfully move into new accommodation and, more importantly, break repeat circles of homelessness that they keep experiencing. So officers from my department have been searching for the right location in order to develop this type of service. And when we heard that the Cross Community Centre was now a surplus building, we wanted to see if this might be an ideal location, a building that could be suitable for the development of the triage service we need. However, as we explain in this paper, that we bring to you today. Once we began to progress this work, it became evident that the building and location was unsuitable for our needs. And that is why I'm now coming here today with the results of the first stage of that feasibility assessment, in which we conclude that the Cross Community Centre is not a viable option for triage or any form of temporary accommodation. We therefore ask Cabinet to approve the officer recommendation that members resolve that the Cross Community Centre is disregarded as a consideration for triage and temporary accommodation. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Shelley. Can I ask members, have they any comments or questions? Councillor Llewellyn, please.
Yeah, diolch, Owen. Thank you, Leader. I'd like to thank Shelley for the report and the work behind it and the rest of the team. It does show the need to tackle the serious homelessness and housing issues that affect across all communities in our county, and for people to receive the support that they need. And I think that we are all agreed that a triage approach is an essential step forward, but we will need to consider various options. The Cross Community Centre has been assessed by officers, but in terms of the nature of the building and some aspects of its location, it isn't considered suitable. Officers of other directorates will need to consider other feasible uses of the building, including potential community-based uses. And I know the local councillors will participate keenly in those discussions. So to conclude, Chair, I'll be happy to support the recommendations at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Councillor Llewellyn. Does any other member like to make a comment? Councillor Hale, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to know, will you be going out looking at any other places where, it would work with the triage?
Should I want to come back?
Thank you. Yes, so we are linking in with Simon Brennan's team, looking at what estates and land are available, and we will continue to look to identify a suitable location. So triage is something that we, as a department, are very, very keen to establish. We think it's a very good model that will just completely change people's lives for the better. So we're very keen to try and identify somewhere else for this.
Thank you for that response, Joe. Okay. As chair, I am entitled to allow scrutiny chairs to speak at Cabinet, so I am going to allow Councillor Goldsworthy to ask her question or make a comment. So, Charlotte, over to you.
Thanks, Chair. I meant to take my hand down because, in fairness, Councillor Hale actually asked the question I was going to speak up about. But again, I will actually confirm as well that there is a big need for this concept going forward. And I obviously work closely with the team, and it is an excellent approach, for us to obviously overcome these issues that we have, which is, affecting people's lives on a daily basis now.
Thank you, Councillor Goldsworthy. That's quite an important point to make. And can I just thank Shelley and the team and the questions, and I certainly support Councillor Llewellyn's points he raised. I think when we make decisions, we have to get it right. A lot of work goes into getting it right, because the impact on communities of what we decide to do at those communities. So I think the excellent work you and your team take that back on behalf of the whole Cabinet, Shelley. Thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any further questions. So I now refer members to the recommendation on page 38 of your agenda pack. I'm happy to propose this agenda item. Could I have a seconder, please?
Obviously, you're pleased to second, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions from members? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I'll assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you very much, Nadine. If I move on to agenda item 8, which is the Active Travel Wales Act 2013. Neath put Talbot Active Travel Delivery Plan, which is 2024 to 2029. The report is on pages 41 to 132 and is here for a decision. can I go to David Griffiths to see if he has anything further to add to the report this afternoon, please?
Nothing directly to add to the report this afternoon, Chair, but I'd like to offer my thanks to the robust scrutiny undertaken by the Scrutiny Board, particularly with the suggestions and feedback they've given us that we've taken on board, and also to the Cabinet members that participated in a working group to improve the plan, which has helped us enormously. So thanks to members for those contributions. And then just one final thing to mention, obviously, it is an ambitious plan. Delivery will be dependent upon allocations by Welsh Government going forward to enable us to deliver on that ambition. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, David. Any questions from members on this agenda item? I think Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I just want to place on record my thanks to all the officers and the and other members and the scrutiny committees for all the work they've put into this. And hopefully now this is a basis for moving forward with an ambitious mindset on active travel, subject, of course, to funding, as we've said. But just to repeat my thanks to everyone involved in developing the document as it currently is.
Thanks, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Chair. As Cabinet member for this item, I would like to thank the team, the small team that we have in putting this together, and with all the hard work they've achieved. And we can only do what we can do when we get the funding. So hopefully something will come through and we can carry on. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. Don't see any further questions or comments. I just also, David, like to echo the comments you made and think it's so important, the work the scrutiny have done on this. It was absolutely superb, and the involvement of your teams and cabinet members, as you say. So thank you, and take out thanks back to those involved, because I think the next steps will be the challenging steps, but we'll drive this forward from Neath Talbot, I'm sure. Thank you. Okay. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 47 of your agenda pack. I'm happy again to propose this agenda item. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 9 is the Active Travel Wales Act 2013 update on progress implementing and revising the Council's Active Travel Network Map, the ATNP. The report is on pages 133 to 142 and is here for monitoring. But I will ask Dave Griffiths if he has anything further to add on this monitoring report, please. Thank you, David. Members, do you have any questions on this agenda item? I don't see any. Obviously, this is a monitoring report, so we'll note this agenda item. Agenda item 10 is the Kilmaine Gwyn Pontardawe prohibiting of waiting, loading and unloading at any time order 2024. The report is on pages 143 to 162 and is here for a decision. So I once more ask David Griffiths if he has anything further to add on this agenda item, please.
Although set out in the report, Chair, we just wanted to note that we've listened to the feedback from the residents and business, and I'm happy to take on board the objections and uphold those with a view to advertising a revised scheme for their consideration.
Thank you very much, David. Members, do you have any questions on this agenda item? I don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 146 of the agenda pack. I will propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Alan. Put your mic off. Can I ask if there's any abstentions? Don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and can confirm that the recommendation's been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Move on to agenda item 11. This is the B4287 Ifalfach to Pontrhydyfen. Ifalfach, the revocation of a 7.5 tonne weight restriction under the Order 2024. The report is on pages 163 to 176 and is here for a decision. I will once more hand over to David Griffiths to see if he has anything further to add.
Again, Chair, just for members' background, the authority was approached by freight companies to consider removing the 7.5 tonne weight restriction. Members that know the area of Effelfach and Pontrhydyfen will know how restrictive the access roads are there, and that we've been doing some major strengthening works to the highway. So following the formal consultation, again, we've taken on board objections received from residents, and we're going to uphold those, and we will continue to monitor the situation going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. Local member has got indicated to speak. Can I call in Councillor Jeremy Hurley, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just again to thank officers and obviously the process of the council use of where we've gone out to consultation. So we've asked the locals and we've had feedback. We've listened to that feedback and then changed the process of what we were going to do. So it's just a great example of us acting as a listening council again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Any further comments from members? I don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 166 of your agenda pack. I will once more propose this agenda item. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to eilio, Cadeirydd, pleased to second.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm the recommendation's been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. So we're now at agenda item 12, which is the review of fees and charges paid at local government elections. Could I ask all officers who are online to go offline, and those in the chamber, leave the chamber, please. Okay, then, the report is on pages 177 to 186 and is here for a decision. So I'll now hand over to Karen Jones to explain this process. Karen, please.
Thank you, Chair. And obviously the officers have left the room because they potentially have a pecuniary interest in this item, given that some of them may become involved in the administration and management of the local government elections. So as you've seen from the report, the fees and charges that we use for paying staff who volunteer to help us with the local government elections hasn't been updated since 2017. It's becoming more challenging to recruit sufficient numbers of staff for election events. And part of the reason for that is because the range of duties that we ask people to undertake at elections is becoming more onerous with changes that we're seeing in legislation. So it's a tidying up exercise from my point of view, with me now moving on in the next couple of weeks to make sure that when you get to 2027, you've got an appropriate framework of fees and charges that will be in place to enable you and the returning officer to recruit sufficient numbers of people with the right qualities to safely administer the next local government event. So that's the purpose of the report, Chair. The appendix details the changes that would apply if you support this item. And just in terms of the funding of it, there is headroom in the elections account to be able to fund it. So there's no new call on the council's budget. And that's pretty much all I've got to say about it, Chair, unless there's questions.
Thank you, Karen. So I'll ask if there are any questions from members. I don't see any. This item is proposed for immediate implementation and will not be subject to the call-in process. So I need to ask, do I have the support of the relevant scrutiny chair, Phil Rogers, please?
I'm happy to support this, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. I now refer members to the recommendation on page 180 of your agenda pack. I'm happy to propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Falch i eilio, please to second. Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions from members? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume they're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Tammy, you can get officers back in, and those online, I don't know if you can indicate to them, Nadine. Oh, put it in the chat. There we are. Here we are. Yeah. You just let me know when everybody's back in place. Thank you. There we are then, all officers are back in the room, and those that are online are also back online. So I'll move on to agenda item 13, which is the miscellaneous grant fund applications. This report is on pages 187 to 192 and is here for a decision. I will ask Hugh Jones now if he has anything further to add on this agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. Diolch. Two standard grant applications are set out on page 191 of your report pack, Chair, where two organisations occupy council-owned premises and we make a contribution towards the rent at 95%. So that's all. Thank you, Chair. Diolch.
Thank you, Hugh. Can I ask members if they have any questions on this agenda item? I don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendation on page 189 of your agenda pack. I'm happy to propose the agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Hapus i eilio, please to second. Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation's been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 14 is the proposed commemorative blue plaque scheme. The report's on page 193 to 232 and is here for a decision. Simon Brennan here, or Nicola, you taking this, are you? I'll have Nicola now to see if she wants to add anything further. Nicola?
Nothing to add, just to point out, Chair, that this is a really good news story and it'll be one way of celebrating the history and culture in Neath Talbot, and it'll be paid for out of existing budgets. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nicola. Can I ask members if they have any questions on this agenda item? Councillor Phillips, please.
Yeah, not a question as such, Leader, but just again, I'd like to take the opportunity to place on record my thanks for everyone, the officers, Delith and Bethan, and everyone else who's been involved with developing this scheme. And it'll be nice to see some of our heritage being marked in this way in the coming years. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Hurley?
Yeah, it's just for feedback. We had the Arts Festival in Neath last week with a couple of history events, which I attended. And it was great to be able to tell people there, obviously, that the scheme was coming. And again, what we've got in Neath Talbot, which was highlighted in some of those talks, is amazing. You know, they're people who have had worldwide influence. So it's great that they'll get a chance to be recognised. Thank you.
Yeah, good words there. Thank you very much. Okay, any other member questions? Okay, I'll now refer members to the recommendation on page 198 and 199 of your agenda pack. I'm happy to propose the agenda item. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see Aelio, please to second, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation's been approved.
Thanks, Nadine. Agenda item 15 is the Health Protection Service, consideration of the Swansea Bay Service Level Agreement. The report is on pages 233 to 260 and is here for a decision. Can I now ask Kerry Morris if he has anything further to add on this agenda item, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Again, a good news story, I think. Members would be aware that we've worked closely with the Health Board since the start of the pandemic on health protection matters. But the challenge to this point has been that we've had to plan our resources on a sort of a temporary funding cycle. Following a review by the Welsh Government into the health protection system in Wales, the Welsh Government are now providing health boards with recurrent funding. So over recent months, we've been working with colleagues in Swansea and the Health Board to map out and put our working relationship on a more formal, permanent footing, Chair. So this SLA, which is appended to the report, sort of sets out an agreed level of recurrent funding, which is enabling us to put a small number of permanent posts in place to contribute to that agenda and clarifies, importantly, the roles and responsibilities of the partner agencies. So, as I said, this report seeks authorisation for myself on behalf of the Council to enter into that agreement, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Members, do you have any questions on this agenda item? I don't see any. Can I just say as well, you know, in these difficult times, I mean, there's a lot of good news stories. The work continues in local authorities. As difficult as it is, I mean, you highlight in a lot of good work, and we mustn't underestimate the level of officers' time and commitment, even looking for the funding to deliver for the residents in Neath Talbot. So very grateful for that work as well, Kerry. And I can see Councillor Phillips has got his hand up, so I'll go to Councillor Phillips as well. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Leader. Just, yes, again, to echo another good news story, and thanks again for the hard work of all of the officers involved in making it happen. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Ken. So now, any other further comments? I don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 237 of your agenda pack. I'll propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see Aelio, please to second, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions from members? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation's been approved.
Thank you very much. We move on to agenda item 16, which is the childcare in schools, education buildings. It's adoptions of new rent arrangements following pilots of changes. The report is on pages 261 to 280 and is here for a decision. I have Hayley Lurvey to take this. Hayley, do you have anything further to add? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Not at all. Just to say, the report follows a successful pilot of new rent arrangements in schools and education buildings. Obviously, the aim is to make childcare space opportunities more accessible and affordable and address childcare sufficiency, and in line with our aspirations and our statutory duties in terms of the Welsh Education Strategic Plan, Flying Start expansion and childcare sufficiency assessment. And happy to take any questions. Thank you, diolch.
Thank you, Hayley. Members, do you have any questions for Hayley? Councillor Nia Jenkins, please.
Not a question, thank you, Chair. It's more of a statement. I'd just like to thank Hayley for all the help with this, and specifically for meeting with members who had concerns and discussing it in an open and transparent way. That it's important that we support our young people and our parents, and you've done a lot of hard work on this, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Nia. Any other member want to make a comment? Don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 270 of your agenda pack. I will propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to see how you look at it. Is pleased to support, Chair.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I'll assume that you are in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 17 is the School Improvement Team, and it's the curriculum for Wales. The report is on pages 281 to 284 and is here for monitoring. I'm going to ask Chris Millis now if he has anything further to add on this agenda item report.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to recognise that all the hard work that's happening in our schools at the moment, from school-based staff and our officers, and the additional pressure that some of our secondary schools face because of the qualifications and exams, as this changes the cultural approach to qualifications in Wales and a cultural approach to a brand new curriculum. So that's all I'd like to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chris. Can I ask members if they have any questions? Can I have Councillor Neath Jenkins, please?
Thank you again, Chair. The curriculum for Wales has been quite a challenge for all our schools, our teachers and our school improvement officers, and they deserve a lot of credit for the progress that we've made in this area. The report does recognise areas for development, and I'm grateful for that, because this shows us that targeted input can be given in this area. So just to thank all of you very much for all the work.
Thanks, Nia. Any other comments from members? And I just echo Nia's comments as well. And I mean, under the circumstances, the work that our educational team with Andrew here this afternoon and you, Chris, and others is exceptional. Obviously, I'm going to say a political thing. We still need more money. We need Welsh Government and UK Government to, and we watch the budget next week in anticipation of some good news. But carry on what you're doing. You're doing an exceptional job here in Neath Talbot. Take that back to everybody involved in the educational department. Thank you. This is a monitoring report, of course, so we will note this as a monitoring report. If I move on to agenda item 18, which is a strategic school improvement programme, and it's a proposal to close the Learning Support Centre for pupils with visual impairment at Kevin Syson Comprehensive School. The report is on pages 285 to 318 and is here for a decision. I'll ask Rhiannon Crowers now if she has anything further to add on this report. Rhiannon?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing to add really, other than to say that this report is purely asking for consultation or approval to go out to consult, and that we will be bringing a further 2 reports after this one if we are given approval as we go through the process of reorganisation. Happy to take any questions though, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Rhiannon. I will ask members if there are any questions now. Councillor Jenkins?
Me again, I'm afraid. Thank you. Notwithstanding the consultation, so I'm not predetermined, but I would like to add that officers are very keen that all the children receive the best education within their own community at mainstream schools where possible. I've been privileged to attend quite a few schools, and I've seen children with communication difficulties thriving in our primary schools in mainstream. So I look forward to the consultation, and thank you very much.
Thank you for that input, Nia. Any further questions or comments from members? I don't see any. I now refer members to the recommendations on page 297 of your agenda pack. I will propose this agenda item. Can I have a seconder, please?
Happy to say, pleased to support.
Thank you, Alan. Any abstentions? I don't see any. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your hand, I will assume that you're in favour of the recommendations.
I see no indication to the contrary, Chair, and confirm that the recommendation has been approved.
Thank you, Nadine. Agenda item 19 are urgent items. I have received one urgent item this afternoon, which we'll now consider. Agenda item 19A under urgent items is to report the outcome of the outline business case assessment by Welsh Government and UK Government. The urgent report is contained within the separately circulated supplementary pack and is here for information. I will now hand over to Karen Jones to see if she needs to add anything further to the report. Karen, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's brought to the meeting today because the statutory instruments for the first two tax sites in the Freeport have actually been laid in Parliament, and I thought it was right and proper that we should make sure that all members were aware of that and our public were also aware of that. And the reason why that's been able to happen is the government has now actually signed off on the outline business case. So that's good news because we will now, once the laying period is concluded, be able to mobilise the tax sites, and that means that we can get on with the challenge of economic growth that we hope the Freeport is going to help us to deliver upon. The other thing that's worth me saying is that we're still waiting on the assessment of the full business case, which you approved a couple of weeks ago. And what that will do once it's been signed off is it will release the £25 million worth of seed capital, which again, along with the tax benefits in the Freeport area, will hopefully catalyse the development plans that the various businesses have put forward. So that's all I wanted to say, but hopefully that gives a reason why it's been brought as an urgent item, Chair, as well.
Thank you very much, Karen. Can I ask members if they have any questions or comments? Councillor Hurley, please.
Yeah, it's just a big thanks again for everyone who's been involved from the very inception right through to another milestone reached again. And again, another step closer to us reaching the goal of what the Freeport is going to bring and how influential it's going to be as a region and transformation for the area. So, really good news again. Thanks all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any other member want to make comment? Councillor Joe Hale, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, wonderful news. It's nice to have some good news for a change and look forward to it moving on. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Joe. Thank you very much. Any other members got any questions? No, can I just also add my thanks? And I know Karen always says team effort and there's a lot of people involved, but the driving force behind where we got to is certainly with the OBC, because I sat alongside her in many meetings. She's been absolutely amazing, and I know she has to rely on, but she's, let's say I call her the captain of the ship for us to get to where we need to get to, and she has absolutely delivered this in time frames of the OBC, and as she quite rightly said, the full business case releasing some of the tax sites is going to be quite important for Port Talbot. But I just wanted to put that on record, the work that Karen personally has put in and the hours she spent even in her private time to get this done before she leaves this authority has been quite amazing in my opinion, and I know most cabinet members and other officers will know that amount of work she has dedicated to the Freeports since we started the process. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you for that, Leader. But I do want to say it is a team effort. Nicola Pierce, sitting here to my right, who and Craig in particular, together with a whole pile of other people across the council, have put an enormous amount of work into it. So I don't want to take the full credit for it because it really has been a team effort. But thank you for your kind words on that.
Thanks, Karen. I do appreciate it, and I do know how much Nicola and others and other authorities as well when you've got to work in partnership. So apologies, Nicola, it wasn't coming across, but I didn't recognise the work you put in as well. But thank you all. Councillor Griffiths?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just that I'd just like to give my congratulations to one person really who really works hard in the background. We know the directors are there and we know them all. It's Craig Griffiths, because he's always there and we know he works so hard and he's there all the time, and I'm sure he helps us a lot. I'm sure he helps you so much as well. But I just think, St. Karen just mentioned him, he didn't get mentioned enough. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that, Councillor Griffiths. we know Karen's spot on. It's a team effort. All officers in this authority work tirelessly to deliver a lot of other things as well. It's just we just need to recognise it. So I probably could go around every cabinet member now for saying, Sheena with Simon and etc. etc. You didn't even mention Dave Griffiths there.
Well,
Griffiths.
The thing is, it's the Griffiths clan, isn't it? There's quite a few. It's like.
Okay, then get back to the agenda. As I said earlier, this agenda item is for noting, so we'll note information on this report. So I move on to agenda item 20, and this is access to meetings. So this is the access to meeting report, which is on page 319 to 324 of your report packs. So I need to resolve now to exclude the public for the following items to Regulation 4, brackets 3 and 5 of your Statutory Instrument 2001, number 2290, and paragraph 14 of Part 4 of the Schedule 12A to the Local Government Act. I propose now that we move into private session. Could I have a seconder, please?
Obviously, I'll please to second.
Thank you, Alan. Can I ask if there's any abstentions?